Hey, disciple makers, if you're serious about making disciples using the resources at PursueGOD.org, I want to talk to you about how to use a mentor journal. Now, this is something that I've started doing. I actually have done it for years now, but recently I've simplified the way I use my mentor journal. I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll show you my journal, and I'll talk about how you can use it in your small group or men's group or with your staff to sort of hold other people accountable to mentoring. So a mentor journal for me is good because it helps me to know who I'm mentoring and what topics I'm covering, but it's also helpful for the people in my life, my staff, my small group, so that, they can share their mentor journal with me and I can sort of encourage them, cheer them on, and make sure that they're doing it. But before I show you my journal, I want to just go back to this image because this is really important. When it comes to discipling someone, remember there are 3 E's in the process. You're going to start by engaging them by just using topics from PursueGOD.org. At some point, you're going to move on to the second phase, which is to establish them in the pursuit. That's when you bring them through that 12-week track called the pursuit. And then finally, when you finish the pursuit, you're ready to empower them to go make disciples for themselves, starting over once again with the engaging phase. So these are what we call the 3 main milestones when you're discipling someone. If your church is a partner church with Pursue God, hopefully they keep track of milestones on your partner page. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and take a look at how to keep a mentoring journal. Now, I use Google Docs for this. That way I can create a folder with my staff and we can all put our journals in the same folder so that we can hold each other accountable to this most important task of making disciples, the Great Commission. All right, here's how I keep a journal. You'll notice that I put the date up top. I put the name of the person I'm discipling, and I took the last name out for privacy purposes. Then I like to put an E1, E2, or E3, depending on the phase that I'm in that discipling relationship. Either I'm engaging, I'm establishing, or I'm empowering. And the last thing I do is to make sure that I either put a note about the topic that we're covering or just some other note about that mentoring relationship. Now, this doesn't have to be a big, long note, but it's helpful for me personally as I'm sort of keeping track of what we're talking about from week to week. So in recap, I've got the date, I've got the name, I've got E1, 2, or E3, and then finally I have a note, and when necessary, I put a link to the topic there. So if you care about making disciples, if you really want to get serious about it, I really encourage you to start a mentor journal. This is a great way to keep yourself accountable, to remind yourself who you're discipling. And you know what'll happen is if you notice that it's been a couple of months since you put someone in the journal, well, maybe you let that be a reminder to look for someone to disciple. So use a mentor journal.